Okay, so we start here, like, okay, so Windows 7 has been around for...
Louder.
Yeah, Windows 7 has been around for 10 years. It's been the life cycle has been 10 years. Now, come up January 14th, that's the end of support for the Windows 7. So you're not gonna get any more support from Microsoft. However, but that means there's no more Windows updates, no more technical support, and all the support they give for Windows 7. That doesn't mean you can't find someone outside of Microsoft, like just technical support to help you with Windows 7. So we'll just be moving forward. These are statistics. I didn't run through all of the statistics here, but this is there's a lot of Windows 7 users, and Microsoft has the most market share. So the transition is, there's going to be a lot of upgrading of Windows 7. So you're either going to buy a new machine or you're going to go forward with your existing machine. So here we got just the market share is pretty big. So I'll just move on to the next one here. Okay, so like I said, you have some decisions to make. So you can continue to still use Windows 7. It's not recommended because you'll have security risks. But if you have your reasons for still sticking with Windows 7, you have critical applications you're running, you might continue with it. I'll say a few more points about that in a second here, and then the other options are you take your old machine and upgrade that to Windows 10. Otherwise, you're going to buy a new computer, new device, another system. Things to consider. Okay, so if you're going to continue using Windows 7, just make sure you have your backup to continue to keep all your important information, because machines get older. So you'll just have everything. So that includes your applications and data. Critical applications and software. Like when you're moving to Windows 10, you just know that the applications that you might have, they might not work in Windows 10, so that you just keep that in mind, that it's not being supported going forward, like including like a scanner that you had with Windows Vista drivers, just different things like that, but also the software, like applications that you use. Okay, and then we mentioned backup of the hard disk. So if you do imaging, that's a very good idea, because you want to protect your system, and if anything goes wrong, you want to be able to recover. So there's going to be a backup and recovery plan. Protect your personal information, because there's going to be no more security updates from Microsoft, so the risk goes higher. So you might want to just take information off your machine, like back it up to an external drive, and just move all your personal things like passwords and all that. And then anything, you can always have a plan B to get to have technical support that you need. So. And if you're going to do the upgrade, the previous operating systems are Windows 7 and Windows 8.1, and you have to have them up. You have to have Windows 7 updated to Service Pack 1, which should be the case for most users. And Windows 8.1, so you just you probably already keep your updates, so it's a good idea. And then I guess you want to say anything about this? Okay, so Windows distributions, like from 2015 and 2016, like I'm not too sure about that one. We didn't.
I'll go over it later.
Yeah, you have to go over that later. But like in previous upgrades, from XP to Vista, etc., you have to make sure you're upgrading like 32-bit to 32-bit operating system. Has to be the line there. 64. The 64 operating system will only work on the 64 operating system when you do complete the upgrade. Also, the additions, they have a good they have a chart on Microsoft like that tells you how editions will upgrade. If you have Home Edition, you can upgrade to pretty much Windows 10 Home, or you can pay more money to buy another key or another license, whatever, to go up to another edition. But you have to go through an exact path, so it has to be allowed. Okay, and Pro to Pro, so those are just the editions. So the system requirements, for machines, 4 gigs memory, 64 gigabits of storage, and a CPU and Hank will talk about the rating on that there, 2,000 to 2,500. There's a price range, $100 to $225. And then there's a note: memory and storage of these systems are not replaceable. So
they're soldered on.
Okay. Oh, this is if it's on the motherboard. So some systems you can't upgrade. Okay, we talked about that. Okay, so if you're doing an upgrade, then Windows 10, just be prepared. Like when you upgrade Windows 7 to Windows 10, you can downgrade it if there's any problems. Like you find that critical application didn't work and you want to go back to Windows 7. You have I read a blog where I believe you have a limited time to do that, like 30 days after you install Windows 10. And then this Windows Old, there's a folder there that's that after the installation, it has your previous operating system in there, all your file structure. So all your files will be there. Like if you had documents, pictures, media, all that, all your files. Other thing is, so it has everything that you had previously. There's usually a way of cleaning up Windows 10 when you do upgrade, that you can remove it because it takes up some space. It also has viruses if you had a virus on the system. So just know that it's not active. Like it will, like the problem, like virus is not going to be on your Windows 10 system. It's just stored there dormant. It's like it's in quarantine until your new antivirus program takes care of it. But you might just want to take care, get rid of this folder if that's the case. Let's see, personal data is carried forward. Okay, so so when you're during the installation, you're given how can I say it? You can keep your existing files or you have a choice of doing a clean install, so where not all your files are taken forward, so just keep that in mind. So the personal data is there. So software device drivers and applications may not be compliant with Windows 10, and that's just if that's the case, you'll get a report during installation, and like say your graphics driver is not going to work, they want you to, so you just uninstall it and then continue. So and there'll be some generic drivers on the Windows 10 until those are updated, because when you install Windows 10, it looks for the new drivers for all your hardware, all your devices, and it will, like for the graphics card, it will automatically install it. So, and it will be included in the update if it's not installed right away. Let's see here. Okay. Hardware and software. I just said that. So just like older hardware, like a scanner, for example, that we're just talking about earlier, where if it's a Vista driver, then just keep that in mind, because if you're going forward, you might have to buy a new scanner. So keep backups. That's self-explanatory. But when you do your backups, you want to move them over to external media, like I guess an external drive, so just separate from the computer. And then if this is optional, but you can disconnect like all your devices, but the Windows will automatically detect your new device when the installation is complete. But disconnect it if you feel like you don't want to run into any bumps. And then of course keep your run on AC operation, so keep your computer plugged into a power source, so you're not, so that you don't run the laptop. You don't want to do it on a battery. You want it to be you want power all the time. So. And then so the process itself, there's a media creation tool that Microsoft creates, that you can download from Microsoft, and it will allow you to do the upgrade in place, meaning you just run the upgrade directly after downloading this file and executing it to run. You'll begin the choice. It also, the other options it gives you at the same time is you have the option to create a flash drive or DVD, or download an ISO file if you're doing different ways of installing. And then let's see, option to keep existing data. So at the time of the installation, of course, it's going to ask you if you want to keep your existing files or just not keep anything. So and that's choice. It's recommended you keep your files if you want to go through the upgrade. You want to simplify it. Option to format drive. I was just this one here is like if you don't want the Windows old folder to be carried forward, you can format your drive before you do the installation. And I think the other reason, I believe, was if you have a hard drive and you're going to the solid state drive, so it might do a format to get it clean install. Option to update during upgrade. Update during upgrade. I'm not sure about that.
I'll explain what that is.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. And then ensure you're still connected. Okay, so that's the same.
Okay. Can you run back three slides?
Yeah, sure.
And I'll pick up from there. Okay.
Okay. So let's see.
One more. One more. Yeah. Let me pick up from here.
Okay, sure.
You could. Okay. What it is that when you go to the Microsoft site, they tell you the minimum requirement is so low that you really can't do anything. And what has happened in the marketplace is that the low-end Windows system is very cheap, and they're selling, like right now, between $100 to $200. I think last year, the year before, I got one for $100. At that time, it was only 32 gigs. Now, obviously, you can't run Windows 10. It's got to be at least 64 gigs now. So this is the reason why we want this up here is that we want you to know that look at the machine you have. If you can't put you don't have 4 gigs like you have a netbook. Netbook is 2 gigs. You can't put 4 gigs in, forget it. It's not going to work. That's what we're driving at. The other thing is the Passmark. If you go to passmark.com, it has like 3,100 CPUs in there. It gives you relative speed. And to give you an idea, an Atom, the original Atom chip that came out, the rating is 300. That's very slow, okay? And now they're saying that you need, in the testing I've done, you need all of these cheap low-end units is in the range of 2,000 up. And the new ones are up to 20,000 in terms of speed. And so look up what kind of processor you have, you see what the speed is. In the old days, we were able to change the CPU or change the clocking on it. They got smart. They say, we don't make money that way. So what they now do is they sort it on the CPU. So if you have a slow CPU, and if it's like in that less than 2,000, forget it. It's not worth the effort. Now, one of the things that in talking to Richard that we want to bring up is that when you're going to upgrade your system, you say, oh, okay, I can make it 4 gigs and so on. Look at what's going to cost you. And then you say, wait a minute, you mean for $100 I can get this? So just remember that. Next slide. Okay. And now, in preparing your system, one of the things that I want everyone to be aware of, okay, is that let's say your present Windows 7 system. Oh, by the way, how many people use Windows 7? I told you. Now, look at your hard disk drive. Look at your hard disk drive and see how much storage you're using on it. I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say you have a 160 gig drive. That's, I think, pretty typical, right? You have 160 gig, and let's say you're using 60 gigs, okay, for the whole thing. You could say, you know, how much free storage you have. Guess what? That 60 gig becomes Windows.O. So if you have something like 100 gigs that you're using out of 160, you're not going to upgrade. You know why? You can't upgrade because there's no place to put Windows.O. And then they say, well, guess what? You won't be able to downgrade it, or during the process, if it hangs up, you're gone because they format. So just remember that. Okay, so that's one of the things they don't tell you when you do an upgrade, all right? In other words, it just happens. So everyone should be aware. Look at how much storage you're using. Now, one of the things that I was talking to Richard about is, well, you might want to upgrade your hard drive or a solid state drive. You can do that. Well, there's a cost in doing that. And by the time you add up everything, you say, wait a minute, maybe, I think Madeline would say, maybe I should get a new machine, okay? Now, in the upgrade, okay, everything that is there is carried over, and it's not only your personal data, it carries over viruses and everything else, okay? So if you have mouse trails in there and it runs slow, you're going to carry everything forward. My recommendation is save your data, find all the application distribution you have, do a clean install so you have, you know, no mouse trails. But that's one of the things that you got to be careful of. And the other thing you have to say is, gee, I have a device I can't use. Now, I happen to have a very expensive device. I can't use it, okay? Actually, I do. I do it in a different way, all right? I have a Nikon scanner that cost me over $1,000. It does not, there's no drivers there for Windows 10. I cheat. I run Windows 7 under Windows 10 in virtual mode, okay? Next. Now, on some older stuff that's not Windows 10 compliant. Now, the chart that he showed, one of the bullet points was that there's a 2-to-1 ratio of Windows 10 to Windows 7 installed machines. So there's over 30% of machines out there still with Windows 7. After January 14th, guess what? Don't be surprised if a good lot of them, a good but high percentage of them are still not converted. ATMs, MRI machines, scanners, medical machines. No one's going to say, for an operating system, I got to get a new MRI machine, okay? And for these vertical applications, there are no software drivers. I mean, it's very expensive stuff. Okay. So, I just want to go over that. Now, on this next one, on that first bullet point, to find it, you just say, you do a search on Microsoft, space, media, space, creation, space, download, and that's how you get it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Search.
So, I didn't quite mention it. And the rest of it he went through. Oh, yes, the other thing is that on the next to last point, option to update. Now, what it is that you probably heard that Microsoft was giving you free Windows 10 upgrade from 7 in 2015. So they have what is called build, B-U-I-L-D, and we can show you how to find out what you have, all right? So if you have a build, in other words, a distribution of Windows 10 in 2015, there were 2 of them. In 2016, there were 2 more. So those 4 builds, you definitely can use those to upgrade. Now, if you take the media creation and you just go to the Microsoft site and to download the ISO file and to build your, to create it, it may or may not work depending on what version you're using. And one of the things I tell everyone is the option to update during upgrade, turn it off. In other words, they ask you, do you want to upgrade on the fly while you update? Do you want us to update the operating system on the fly while we're upgrading you? The answer is no. There's 2 reasons why you want no. One is then they can't check the date. So because they may check the date to say, aha, wait a minute, you don't get a freebie anymore. But once you've done it, It's free, okay? And the second reason is very simple. If you try to do an update, it's going to take a lot longer to run. Okay, next. So this is why, now, whatever the system feels to you when you're with your Windows 7 machine, it's going to run slower in Windows 10, anywhere from 10 to 20% easily, unless you upgrade your hardware to do it, okay? Reason is very simple. What they did was, with Windows 10, it's not only for PC, it was for the smartphone that failed, it's also for tablets, it's for everything else. So what they did was they compressed the system kernel to the maximum. Guess what? If the system kernel is compressed in runtime, it takes time to expand it. That's why it's going to run slow. So if your machine is barely hanging in there in terms of speed, well, I don't care what the Passmark rating is, if you don't feel comfortable, like, this is barely running, the upgrade is going to make you run slower. Now, to give you an idea, I was able to, I have a netbook with only 2 gig of memory on, and in the first distribution, I was able to put Windows 10 on. I can't upgrade it, so I'm still sitting with an old copy. Just to give you an idea, if I were to key in msn.com, wait 5 seconds, and then it'll come out. So that's how slow it is, all right? Okay? And now, after 30 days, actually, you can extend it if you want to keep the old stuff on. Because no matter what you back up, you think what you're backing up is you've backed up everything. Not true. Because it's My Documents or Documents, wherever it is, or downloads, but there's other areas there. If you're running Outlook, the things are elsewhere. There are certain applications that don't put stuff in your document area. It's put in their, they're put in the application folder under programs. So you don't know what it is. So you really, in a sense that even before you erase it, you want to copy that out because that's where your data is. Okay? And also, what you may copy is the password. You can't remember where it is, so you may want that. So just remember, if you want to do an upgrade, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. One is, what's it going to cost me to do it? Number 2 is, when I do it, and I am at the same level of performance, what's it good for, 1 year? Guess what? That's about it. Is it worth the effort? Ask yourself that question. Now, so you say you buy a new machine. So what do you do with the old machine? Well, you could use acid bleach or whatever you want, okay? But what you can do is, and this is actually what I did, all right? Put Linux on, all right? Now, Zorin OS, I put it on the other day. I did some intensive testing on it. It looks like Windows 7. It's nice, it's clean. I only found one problem with it. There was a solution. I'm going to do it, okay? Everything worked. I got on the internet. And then I took off the Ethernet wire and I ran on battery. No wireless operation unless I modify the firmware. In other words, I have to, I'm not going to modify the firmware, okay? So if I'm going to use it, okay? Now, if you happen to be an 8.1 user, you might want Chalet OS. And I know that Jim runs with a Mint, and that gives you the Windows 10 look. So these will run. Now, like the beauty of Zorin, I don't know about the others, all right? Zorin is integrated with Wine with the distribution. What that means is that you can install and run Windows programs under it. So let's say right now we're in December, and you say it's tax time. There's no tax prep program in Linux, but if you have the Wine, it will run under it. Okay, next. Okay, now, I thought I'd wake everyone up if you're falling asleep, all right? This is an eye test, go ahead. Now, don't worry, I made this big, okay? All right, now, one of the things is that you may have questions on it. Let's try to go through them as quickly as possible, okay? Next. Okay, so is the Windows 10 free upgrade offer still available? The answer is yes. Now, back in 2015, 2016, about 3 years ago, what the club did was, I don't know if many of you remember, we had these CDs we made up for $2, you know, and there were 4 versions of it. We had Windows 32-bit Home, 32-bit Pro, 32-bit, and so on. There were 4 versions. And then I also said that if you happen to have Ultimate, it's the same as Pro. You have Enterprise, it's the same as Pro, okay? Are they still available? The club still has an I'm sorry, we don't have an inventory, we have archives of it. If you really need it, you could try to download it. The reason why I didn't bring any in is because it's a lot of work to do, okay? Because I can give you the ISO file, and if I give you the ISO file, many of you know how to use Rufus, right? Everyone's familiar with Rufus. Okay, Rufus, R-U-F-U-S, you download it, and what it does, it takes an ISO file, and it creates a distribution disk out of it, all right? And by the way, how many people here got copies of those CDs or DVDs? Wow, just a handful. Well, you should have had it, okay? Now, if you go to Microsoft and you download with Media Create, they actually give you some nice options. And let me tell you what, let's say I have 2 machines. Let's say I have a home machine and a pro machine, okay? And on the home machine, I use it for, I just play games with it, all right? Meaning, I don't do any serious work. The pro machine, I don't do any fun work with it because I take it, I do consulting assignments, and so on, all right? And you say, all right, I'm going to download, as what Richard said, I'm going to download the ISO file to do the upgrade. My recommendation is you download the ISO file to do the upgrade. You do not do it online, on the fly, for a whole lot of reasons, okay? And the reason is because if you download, unfortunately, I had this argument with Andy Grove, 20 years ago? I lost, okay? What he said was, you don't need parity check anymore. So what happens is if there's a communication error, you get a bum file, you start upgrading, it'll crap you out, okay? Also, if you have a lot of, by the way, I assume that many of you have more than 1 machine, right? Yeah. So if they're like machines, like, they're all home premium or pro, you're not going to go through this downloading each time. You download it 1 ISO file, create it, and it saves you time. All right. So is it still available? By the way, this is from the Microsoft site. If you click on for an answer, the answer is no. However, I'm telling you, we got it. Okay. Now, if you have trouble, talk to me afterwards. All right. Now, how do you get Windows 10? You go to Media Create. You can download the latest one. When you download the latest one, and you try upgrading, they say, oh, by the way, what's your credit card number? So, in other words, they're saying it's available. You just have to pay for it. So that's the second question they have. And the answer is, of course, do you still qualify? You know what? We know how to do it, okay? Number 1 is don't run the upgrade online. In other words, turn off the internet, disconnect the cable, okay? This way, there's no checking. And if you do have a problem with running the new stuff, there's another thing you can do, all right? And that is very simple. You know how to change the date in the operating system? No, change it to 1/1/2015.
You mean the BIOS setup?
No. In the operating system, you could change it, okay? All right, next, okay? Now, okay, the answer is yes, it's readily available on, oh yes, getting back to what I was saying, suppose you have a home premium machine and a pro machine, all right? On the home machine, you can download the ISO file for the home. And if you think you want the copy for the pro, they won't let you do it. You got to do it from the pro machine. The pro machine can download the home and pro ISO file, and the home machine can only download the home ISO file. Just, because some of you may have home and pro at the same time.
From Windows 7 Pro, I could download the Windows 10 Pro?
Yes, and home. Okay. Now they also have an option where 8 gig drives are cheap now. Okay, right? The flash drives is that it uses, I think 16 gig is safer. Right? What it is that you can also download what is called both Windows 32-bit both. That means it will, it's 32 bits, I'm sorry, it's Windows Pro 32 and 64 bits in one copy. All right? It's, okay, they also have Windows Home, both, which is 32 and 64 bit. So you don't have to worry about, do I have a 64 bit or do I have a 32 bit? So if you happen to have a 32-bit home and a 64-bit home on the other one, you download the both, you got it covered in both cases. Now, this is interesting. How do I reinstall Windows 10? You know, everyone knows about the hidden partition. When the operating system craps out, don't worry, I'll reinstall, go to a hidden partition, factory reset, bring it in. Wait a minute, I was at 10. Hidden partition is 7 or even XP, right? You mean I just lost it? There are two ways of doing it, all right? And I'll go over how you can do it the easy way. But what the Microsoft announced last month is that no problem at all. Don't do the factory reset. Download from them a program. And what they'll do is, oh, I see that you really have Windows 10 and you really, you don't want to use the factory reset. We'll download a fresh copy of Windows 10 for you to replace what you have. Now, there's another way of doing it, which I'll go over a little later, okay? What do I need to know about buying a new Windows 10 PC? It's only money, though, so that's all it is. No, actually, what I found is that in the $100 to $300 range is your low end, all right? But be careful. I do not recommend that you buy any PC where the flash storage is memory. In other words, the flash memory, like 16 gigabyte, you know, these little tiny cards, now they started in. There are two problems, okay? Number one is that they're really just minimal systems. Number two is, and I've done a teardown on the Dell, okay? I was very disappointed with the Dell. What they did was everything is soldered on. You can't change the memory. You can't change the storage on it. I figured I was going to change the memory, and if you have a soldering gun, throw it away. If you want to do it, you need a very fine point soldering pen, all right? The other thing is that on the low end stuff, and this is really low end in that $100 to $300 range, I couldn't believe it, all right? I accidentally spilled some orange juice on top of the keyboard. I messed up the keyboard, so you figure change the keyboard, right? No, I had to take out the motherboard, and the motherboard was glued to the keyboard, okay? And when I separated the glue, there's no screws holding it, it was just glue. So when it's cheap, it's cheap. But, you know, sometimes you travel around and you just need to throw, you want to have a low-risk machine, that's what you have. Now, when you go from 300 to 500, now you're getting, a 1 terabyte drive, use that. There are options for a backlit keyboard. And if anyone's interested in a numeric keypad, it's 15-inch screen and up. I don't know how many people have 15-inch screens. Okay, so if you want to, continue with, but be careful. It turns out that I ordered a 15-inch laptop. I assume all the 15-inch laptop have a separate numeric keypad. They faked me out. You got to read this stuff very carefully, all right? The other thing is when you buy a new machine, look at how many USB-C ports there are, how many USB 2.0 ports there are. Look at whether it's a VGA interface for external monitor, or is it HDMI, or is it DVI, or is it micro HDMI? Because what I did was I just assumed HDMI, no problem at all. Nah, And also, by the way, on the low end systems, I was very surprised. There's no hardwired Ethernet available. Okay, so you know what you do? So you buy an adapter for $15 and you stick it into a USB port. Oh, wait a minute, I only got one USB port, that's for my mouse. So these are the things that you got to consider. So when you're buying a Windows 10 machine, and I think Sandra, she had me Actually, I did this work for her because she would say, you know, what, you know, she asked me a very simple question. It was simple. It's like, you know, I need a new machine. How much is it going to cost me? All right? And she made it easy for me. She thought she was going to spend $1,000, all right? No, I said to her, maybe $300 to $500. She smiled, but she hasn't bought the machine yet. Okay, next. Okay. How long will it take to upgrade my device? If you do a clean install, well under an hour, probably, depending on the machine you have, maybe about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, very fast. And if it's fully loaded, it can take hours, okay? Literally take hours. Now, suppose I don't want to reinstall the applications because I can't find the distribution disk. I mean, that's for real, all right? So it's fully loaded, no problem. Just before I go to sleep, I start the upgrade process. Nope, there's a lot of questions in between. You go to sleep and it's hung up on the question, you wake up and you're still asking the same question, okay? So you gotta be patient. In other words, don't walk away from it, because you walk away from it thinking that, well, you know, it's gonna take 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. You don't know when. Has it happened to you yet?
A few times.
Okay, and will your Windows 7 apps work? You know, this is a crazy thing. I bought a piece of hardware, and it said it was Windows 10 compliant. I trusted the manufacturer. I mean, like, you know what, you know, they tell you. I assume everyone heard of Shure, S-H-U-R-E. It's a microphone.
Yeah, oh, right, yeah.
They're Windows 10 compliant. Yeah. Except there was a problem, okay? It killed the sound for everything else. What it did is it replaced it. It worked under Windows 10, but they replaced the standard drivers. And when I want to go back and use the sound, it's not there. So I had to plug, unplug, and so on. So be careful with that stuff. Okay, next. The answer is yes on the first, yes, and yes. And I think, anyone has questions? I'll take some before I continue. Go ahead. Yeah.
When we're told that support will stop for Windows 7, does that mean that you can, if you, let's say, have to continue with 7 for a while afterwards?
It's only money. In other words, they say they'll support it if you're willing to pay in the hundreds.
No, what my question is, I know they won't develop any new updates for it, but will all the old updates be available for it?
Yes, it's up there.
It's up there.
For now. They may take it off, so don't, in other words...
So we don't know how long?
I don't know, because I used to group the stuff and we made it available to the club. At one time, I had all the XP upgrades. They took that off already. The 7s are still up there in bigger aggregates, okay?
So there's no updates for XP at all, zero?
Gone.
Gone.
Don't even bother with
Okay.
it.
One more thing. With 7, I was able to use devices like printers and scanners that would only work with XP by using compatibility mode in 7. Does 10 have a compatibility mode for older?
The answer is no.
Yes, it does.
Really?
No.
I know.
They took it out.
Really?
They took it out. However, you can run the sandbox underneath it, but then you're going through multiple levels to get to it, all right? And a printer is cheap today. Seriously, you could buy a multi-function printer for, what, $50, $60? Of course, you know why so cheap? It's the ink.
Yeah.
But HP gives you cheap ink.
It's not cheap.
Nothing is cheap.
Oh, no, it's free,
It's a scam,
$2.99.
Free. I have to find AOC to get things free, okay? Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. That very question you went on there. I have certain XP things that I really want to run under Windows 10. You mentioned to me when I asked this before something about Sandbox, but you have to have the distribution disk for XP.
No.
So I want to. How
No,
do I
no,
run
no,
XP
no.
virtual?
First of all, an operating system when it's running is fine.
Yeah.
The distribution is to go back to reinstall.
Well, no, I have a Windows 10 machine without XP on it. I want to run XP virtual.
Okay, let me tell you what happened when Windows 7 came out, all right? They gave everyone a sandbox copy of XP free. It's no longer available.
Where do I get it? Which I can't run.
Pirate Bay?
Wait a minute, you can't run?
How about Pirate Bay? It's like authorized.
No, you won't find it there, okay? No, seriously, it's,
Certain programs will only run on they'll run maybe on the Windows 7, I haven't tried it.
you know what? No, seriously, you're not gonna find a standard place to get it, okay? It's someone that archived it somewhere, someone might have saved it, it was free, and the beauty of it was, it did not need a product key at all. It did not need a product key, but they took it away. Now, what?
No product key for what?
XP mode.
The XP virtual copy of it, running on the 7, was free, no product key was required. Now, if you're running 8.1 or 7,
8.1 I have.
okay, there are ways. What you can do is, and if you have the distribution disk,
On XP I might have distribution, and the upgrade.
well, I don't know about XP, but I know with 7 and 8.1, you can create the operating system onto a flash drive,
Yeah.
okay? So when you need it, you run it, and then when you don't need it, just don't use the flash drive.
I don't know if XP would work that way.
What program is this?
It's a certain Microsoft program. It's Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator that runs on Windows 10.
So get the new copy.
No, they don't have a new copy, do they? Then the joystick operates on the Windows 10. That's all open. It won't operate together.
Listen, it's time to spend a little money, okay?
I just better.
Spend some of your kids' inheritance,
You're right.
okay? Jim?
I was running a WinSig meeting once, and I had 2 drives. I would flip in and out, going from Linux to Windows. Of course, when I went to the Windows thing, I wanted to switch back to Linux. It said, "Don't turn your machine off." Is there any, in order to avoid that kind of thing, after you do all this upgrade and installation, can you just say, "I don't want any updates"? If you're going to a meeting somewhere where you don't want to be hung up with this.
Well, the
stop everything up.
answer is yes and no. There's a switch that says, actually, you have a couple of them. One is no updates. The other option is download the updates, but don't execute it. And the third option is go ahead and update whenever comes available. Don't do that, because while you're doing work, it interrupts you, okay? Then there's a fourth option that is undocumented. We're giving you updates whether you like it or not. No, that's one of the options. I was,
That happens to me. It updates in the
Yep.
middle of whatever.
okay, like if you're running Windows 7, now you're getting a message, okay, whether you like it or not. It flashes on the whole screen.
That happened during a weather presentation on TV once.
Another reason to use Linux. Linux, you can get all updates invariably all the time. You choose when to accept it.
Yeah, but you know what? He doesn't tell you. There's over 300 versions, which one you use. Okay. Yes.
There was a report on the internet that Intel was taking down the archives for the old BIOS drivers, so that if you had to reinstall your BIOS, it might not be available, or might not be available much longer. Do you have any information on how to handle that?
Yes. There's 2 websites. One is called windowsiso.net, and it has windowsiso.net has the distribution copies of all the Windows distribution. In other words, you can find Windows 7 on it, Windows XP. Okay, it's called windowsiso.net. The other one, I think, is called, I can't remember, diskcopy.com, I think, something like that. And you can get DOS 5. You can get DOS 5.1 on it. You can get the old copies of the operating system.
But I'm talking about the BIOS file itself.
You have to get to the motherboard manufacturer.
Well, first of all, the BIOS is different from manufacturer to manufacturer. You got all these manufacturers, all these motherboards, and no one manufacturer has the same BIOS for the whole product line. It varies, okay? All right. Now, by the way, if you want to give away your system, all right, the surest way of making sure that it's safe to do it, and I'm surprised that, I'm watching the news and these people don't know what they're doing, is if you download the matching drive utility program, low hard disk format, okay, what that does is it rewrites all the timing bits. So when you shift the timing bits, there's no way you're going to recover any data on it, okay? Now, short of that, and if it takes a lot of time, you don't want to open it up, there's a program called D-BAN, D-B-A-N, all right? And 1 or 2 passes, but it takes a long time to run. And to me, the easiest is you're giving it to someone that you kind of trust, but just do a factory reset, unless you, unless you're willing to spend time on it. Okay.
Target practice.
Okay, now let me go to the next slide. Okay, now these are sidebars. I just want to go through some of this stuff on it, okay? There's a program, when you do CMD, you want administrative rights, and then you're in the command prompt mode. There's a program that is intent called Compact OS. Now, the reason why I say that is because I said that in Windows 10, they compressed a lot of much of the system kernel so it fits into a tablet and a small machine. Well, suppose you're buying a regular machine, you got all the storage, you don't need this, because this is, that compression will slow you down. This will then allow you to free up that space on a permanent basis. Okay? So in other words, hey, in order to run faster, if you're running Windows 10, get rid of the compression. Okay? So that is a utility. I had a slide that, slide by slide. You have to be careful how you do it, all right? I would suggest if you do this, do a backup first in case you make a mistake, because you have to answer certain questions on it. The other thing is that you could swap the SSD, and I know that Richard and I, we use the same program, Macrium Free, M-A-C-R-I-U-M, free, and there's a free copy and a pro copy. The free copy is that it will do a total hard disk copy, which is great, that's what you want. The pro copy will allow you to restore selected files. The free copy, you can't get to the selected files, okay? So I just want to tell you that, for the purpose of cloning, this is the easiest thing to do. I've done it for about half a dozen machines already where I'm putting in the SSD. SSD now, cheap enough, but my recommendation is forget the 80s. You don't want to buy the 80 gig anymore. I think the other one is a 128, I think that like Microsoft is selling. Get at least a 256 or a 512, all right? A 512 will cost you about $70, $80 now. It's worth it. Okay? A terabyte will cost a lot more, but you know what? You don't need a terabyte if you take all the audio images, video images, the pretty pictures that you took that no one's going to look at, okay? Put them, on a separate external drive, put it away. By the way, I'm sure that, you've taken a lot of pictures. Have you ever gone back to the pictures?
Yeah.
You did?
All the time.
Use them for my desktop.
Use it Picasso, it's easy.
You go through 10,000 pictures on your
Not
desktop?
10,000, but I,
400
You can
pictures.
store all those
like a
pictures on
slideshow.
your
Okay,
device.
so it's very easy to do. By the way, you download Macrium free. It's free, okay?
Can you spell that?
M-A-C-R-I-U-M, okay? And the reason why I mention that is because I want to warn you, all right? It is free, but they use the double negative. I don't not want. That means you won. And all of a sudden you get all the bloatware. Okay? Well, I don't not want.
Oh, I see.
Okay? Now, at first when I saw it, I said, it must have been some guy in China, he can't translate, okay? Well, he knew how to translate, right? All right? And what you do is, you just install this, and then you just copy out now, in Windows 10, it's not one hidden partition, it's 4 hidden partitions. If you do the whole drive, you pick up all 4. Depending on who the manufacturer is, it could go more than 4 partitions. All right? And when you look at the partition, you think there's nothing there. It's hidden files. So you got to copy out those partitions.
There's more than one manufacturer for Windows 10?
No. Windows 10 as an operating system, the manufacturers are cheapies, okay? They used to give you a DVD, a CD, and so on. They've now put it onto a hidden partition. It's not one partition. We call it hidden partition, but it's like 4 to 6 partitions, all right? Okay? Because some of them, let me tell you what it is. Microsoft has 4 hidden partitions. However, HP, Dell, and Lenovo, they have their own drivers, so there's another partition for the drivers, and then they have another partition for bloatware. Don't try to find where the bloatware is, because you're going to screw up and delete something, keep, okay? All right, so what you do is, now, if you're running a dual operating system, always install Windows 10 first. Because when you install Windows 10, it writes onto the boot sector. So Jim was telling me that he had put Linux on first, and all of a sudden you put Windows on it, and it clobbers it. Okay.
So I learned how to use the Grub bootloader in Microsoft instead of Microsoft.
Right. Okay. So that's the other thing. And now the other thing is that in Windows 10, if you do an upgrade, and you say, okay, I did this upgrade, I took this machine that I have, I didn't change it, and you say, well, you know what? I got a Christmas gift. Someone gave me an SSD, or I found memory. Okay. Make sure that when you do the cloning or adding of the hardware, turn the UEFI off. That's in the setup, okay? What the UEFI is that it has a copy of the peripherals for that operating system, and if you leave it on, it will keep booting to the operating system. It won't go to the new, or you can't boot up at all. Okay? If you leave it off, then you could do it. After you bring it up, then you can turn UEFI on. Hope everyone understood that.
I thought you couldn't boot without UEFI.
Sure you can. You have legendary or UEFI.
Yeah,
Even if you don't add any new equipment, you could always boot up with legendary. The purpose of the UEFI is that...
Legacy. Actually.
I'm sorry, legacy, okay? And the reason why they have UEFI is that malware wants to modify and redirect the boot. It can't because the UEFI is on. That's the purpose of UEFI, okay?
You're going to mention S mode?
S mode is for what now? Operating
The
system?
Windows 10 S mode.
Yeah, single task. Slow. S means slow.
But it only runs Microsoft apps, I understand.
No, well, you can fake it out. It's in other words, stuff in the store. You know what? You could delete that and just go into the normal mode, okay? The whole purpose is that on low-end machines, if it's single task, it seems like it's running fine. When you have all that background stuff and other things running on it, you're going to slow it up. Okay? All right. And I think that's the last slide. Is that it? Any other questions?
Oh, there's one.
Oh, one more? Oh, yeah, okay. On Passmark, okay? If you go to passmark.com, they have thousands of CPUs with literally hundreds of tests, thousands of tests. I participate in some of these tests. And what it is that when you participate, you take your machine, you run it through a whole series of utilities, and then it comes up with an index of how fast your machine is. And so what you can do is that they have different categories, all right? And so you have this, like the 2,000 to 2,500. My recommendation, if you're buying a new machine and you're not going for a low end, look for at least something, at least 4,000 to 5,000 as a minimum, okay? And by the way, the problem is that when you, like say, especially now during Christmas time, you see all these specials. I got a 1 gigahertz machine, I got a 2 gigahertz here, I got a 1.5 here. Means nothing. It's not relative to any speed at all, okay? Now, how do you know? You go to Passmark, you can find out what it is. Now, they do something more than that. They also have multi-CPU. In other words, there are machines like the Xeon from Intel. You got 2 processors and so on. Now, one of the nice things I have about it is that they have a rating that you probably never heard of, single thread rating, okay? Suppose you have a 4-core machine. 4-core means that, you got 4 processors, banging away on, but you think about it, right? You have a, let's say you could do 100,000, let's say 1 million instructions, all right? And it's 4-core, right? That means that each core can do 250,000 instructions, okay? I'm just using it as an example. So now, if you have a single core machine that can do 1 million, which one would you choose? if something is compute bound and it cannot take advantage of multi-core, guess what? The single core will be faster than the 4-core. Why? Because the 4-core, the single thread rating on it is 1/4 of that total speed of the machine. Now, why would you want that? Well, because I'm doing a lot of things. I'll give you an example where the more cores you have, you're better off, okay? People who play games, the gamers, okay? They got to do screen rendition, sound, all the things, all right? But the typical applications like Office, Microsoft Office, other things, you're better off with the lower the core, the faster you run, given the same performance. Yes?
I'm in the process of building a gaming machine just to see what it's like. And one of the things they mentioned parenthetically is that gaming machines seem to be much better for video editing, because a lot of the Ryzen things, if it's a 4-core, it usually has 8 threads. So the 4 cores run, and then they run a duplicate thread for each one of the cores. Is that the way it works?
No, well, the thing is, they could separate all the different functions on different cores, okay? Whereas if I'm doing a spreadsheet, I'm running on 1 core, so when I do 1 column, 1 column, 1 column, all right? Microsoft has yet to develop a way of saying, gee, and when you think about it logically, maybe you can't, because if you are doing all these at the same time, you're coming up with different numbers, horizontally, okay? So in terms of the standard off-the-shelf consumer applications, look at that single thread rating, and that's what you're really measuring, all right? Now, I do Audacity, which is audio editing. I know that Brendan, he does video editing, but with video editing,
I don't really do video editing, I just cut and paste.
Okay, so with you, single core is fine, all right?
Yeah.
But if you happen to have Adobe, Final Cut and all that stuff, they do take advantage of the cores, okay? But it's expensive stuff though, okay? All right? Yes?
My Windows machine has under the optional updates, it says anytime upgrade. What is that?
Anytime?
That means you can buy.
Upgrade. Is that an upgrade to Windows 10? It's a Windows 7
You're running a Windows 7 machine?
Yeah.
Anytime means when they're ready to do an upgrade, they'll come right in and do it.
No, you have to select it as optional.
Yeah, it's a buying option in the properties. Yeah, if you click on it, it's going to take you to upgrading your machine.
But it probably doesn't work
Upgrade to
anymore.
Windows 10, in other words?
I haven't tried. I haven't seen that message for a while, but
I don't think it works anymore. When they stopped wanting to sell Windows 7, I think they ended the upgrade anytime. That was when they would, like, you bought the home, they tried to get you to upgrade to Pro with the upgrade anytime offer. Because basically, the way they worked it was, when you installed it, the whole thing is there. In other words, the Pro edition's there, the Ultimate edition's there. The only thing you get with the upgrade is you get a password that unlocks the extra features. And when they decided they didn't want people to buy it anymore, they stopped selling them.
Okay, let me just finally, yes, go ahead.
I have Office 2010.
Oh, yes, that's the other thing we didn't cover, all right? We actually had 3 goals when we were coming up with this presentation. Number 1 is think first whether it's worth doing the upgrade, okay? In other words, is it cost effective at all to do the upgrade? The other is what's involved in the upgrade. And the third thing that, when I sent out the announcement, was can older copies of Office run under it? It's like any other program. You know, that's one of the biggest con that Microsoft did. They have Office 97. You thought that was only for, guess what, Windows 97. Then they have Office, XP, okay? You thought it was only for XP. Guess what? You can run 97 on 10. It's a regular program. And what's the difference between 97, Office 97, and Office 2010? Okay, I'll stop at 2010. The difference is all the stuff you don't need, okay? All right? Now, 2013 is different, all right? That's when they started where, with moving to 2016, it's what they want you, okay? Office as a service. No, it's software as a service, SaaS. That means you want Office? Cheap, $6 a month. A month?
A month.
A month? Let's see, that comes out to $72 a year. Wait a minute, that's not cheap, okay? So that was the third thing that we wanted to cover was that, I know a lot of people ask, can I run Microsoft Office? What version is compatible with 10? All the versions are. Yes?
A corollary. Is there some way of transferring it free from one machine to another if I go to a...
Translating what?
If I go to a new
Transferring
machine in
the
Windows
software.
10, is there a way of transferring it free?
Yeah, take the distribution and key in a product key when you're installing. Now, I'll tell you what, if it's modest, okay, you have two options. You want Office-like navigation, all right? There's two ways of doing it. One is through the cloud using Google Doc, okay? The only catch is that, and it's free, and it'll probably do most of what you want. The only catch is you got to be online, and if you're on a plane or you're in a car, well, it's not going to work, okay? The other option is called Kingsoft WPS. That's free. They have a Word, presentation, and spreadsheet, which covers the three basic functions of Office. It's free. It's a near clone. The only thing it doesn't have is macro capability. If you're doing macros, well, they say you can buy it from us. I think it's $50 or $40, you know, something like that, and it works fine. Huh? Outlook?
Yeah, does Kingsoft...
No, they don't have Outlook. Okay?
What about LibreOffice?
That's what I use.
Fine, you could use it, but remember now, if you're using Microsoft Office, you go to Open Office, okay? You know, it's pretty hard. The mind doesn't, you know, Open Office is, you have the functions of Word, spreadsheet, and a presentation as a function on a document. With Microsoft, the document is with each function. Just remember, the thinking is different, right? And by the way, there's no problem at all, okay? And there are certain, now what happened was when Richard and I was doing the presentation, he gave me stuff from Open Office, and it says it can't translate everything, okay? So
Yeah.
it's not 100%.
It's an open
Now,
format.
if you are at work, most work companies have Microsoft Office, okay? You go home and you use Open Office, and you have this problem with navigation in your head, okay?
But isn't LibreOffice a newer iteration of OpenOffice? OpenOffice and do the same thing?
No.
Why?
No, what happened, Open Office was from Sun Microsystem, free, and then Sun Microsystem started saying, hey, we're going to charge for it, so this forked off into LibreOffice and Open Office, okay? And LibreOffice is really the one with the more functions.
Open Office team.
Huh?
The Open Office team quit Oracle after they got acquired by Oracle. And
Yeah.
they created LibreOffice.
But Oracle is still offering it, okay? Yes.
Can you upgrade a dual boot system?
Upgrade what?
A dual boot system.
You didn't hear what I said. The answer is you have to install Windows 10 first, and then you can install the...
No, but it's already installed, it's just want to upgrade.
you know what I said? Windows 10 will clobber the boot sector.
It'll clobber
The boot sector. If it clogs the boot sector, it kills the whatever you have on it.
Well, in Linux installs something called Grub, I believe.
Grub, yeah. Grub is the
Install
bootloader.
Grub, so you can't boot into Linux?
No, you can after you install Windows 10.
It's already, Windows 7 is already installed, you just want to upgrade it.
I don't know if you can do it, but there's something called Grub Customizer or Grub Optimizer, and you can choose which partitions you want to boot in what order.
No, just wait. The bootloader for 7 and 10 are different. Okay. By the way, anyone running Windows 10? Okay. I don't know if you noticed, if you took an ISO file, you right-click on it, and you could quickly extract all the files very quickly. Before that, you had to go through a whole mishmash to extract it.
Which files? The system files or data files?
No. If the entire operating system.
Oh, okay.
If you right-click it, you know, on the ISO file, you see all the details. Okay. There's a utility available on the install.wim file that tells you what version it is. Okay.
Does the Office 2010 support end the same time with the Windows 10 support, or does it have a different expiration date?
That's long gone.
No, but they're still giving patches for it as of this month.
It's going to end. It's going to end. Now, Richard said that the January 14th, but let me tell you what happened a few months ago during the summer. Microsoft issued a free XP patch. And the reason was because there was a piece of malware that was so serious, they just felt that whoever was using XP should get it, and they created it and they sent it out. So,
When was that sent out?
during the summer. Okay. Now, what machines? ATMs.
Yeah. They still running XP?
Think about it, ATMs.
Point of sale.
Was it serious? Yeah. Now, Madeline, I know you have an ATM machine at home, okay? Okay. Yes.
Can you,
He's got to leave soon, that's why.
quick question on history and image. When you have those
What?
you have a history file and an image file. Is there a way to, is there an update to it rather than redoing the whole thing?
What history file? What are you talking about?
In Windows 10, it's a history file that copies your data files.
Yeah, it has a lot of settings for history activity, and
Oh.
it collects all your history activities and everything you do in Windows 10. You can turn it on and off, or off.
If you want to mess around with it, you do it at your own risk. Just don't touch it, don't
Yeah.
touch it.
Just leave it alone and
Just leave it
reload
alone.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Gene?
All right.
Thank you, Richard.